This episode of Instant Analysis is brought to you by Platinum Storage Group and Real Estate Investments. For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Dan Weber for Instant Analysis of Day 20 of the Todd McNair NCAA trial. And we said we'd report back when there was news regarding the trial. Well, there's news, but there's not a verdict. So, long story short, we got word that the jury is now deadlocked. They're deadlocked 8-4. Judge Schaller alluded that there were some heated disagreements in the jury deliberation room, so he sent them home early for the day to kind of clear their minds, and the jury will resume tomorrow at 9 a.m. to try and not be deadlocked anymore. But it was an interesting development today. How did this day pan out?
Yeah, wasn't what we were looking for, but I don't know that anybody was looking for this. I just don't think we were thinking deadlocked with a 9-3 either way to decide it. You think of a deadlock in 11-1 in a criminal trial and one person's holding out or whatever. But all Judge Schaller is allowed to do is ask, what the vote is, and he can't ask which direction is it or anything. There's a question came up that Judge Schaller wasn't even sure he's allowed to answer, and has to get together with both attorneys and kind of decide. But it was kind of an interesting day. 3 different kinds of communications from inside the jury room, and each of a sort of a different nature as we were sitting there watching them happen.
Yeah, so the first question of the day came kind of during the morning session. The jury asked, can we review Todd McNair's transcript from when he was on the witness stand in this trial? And so that's technically not allowed because they can't just look through a book of his transcript. It has to be read by the court reporter. So Judge Schaller actually brought in both parties and had them decide what to do, and they figured out that that was improper, and that if they wanted a portion of the transcript read back to them by the court reporter, they could do that. But Judge Schaller didn't even tell them you can select a portion. He didn't want to reach that far to tell them what to do. And then the next
just a little footnote on the transcript. Each court reporter apparently, have their way of doing, with that, special stenographic machine, and they've got their own shortcuts and markings and what have you. That if you just produced that, now the transcript hasn't been produced yet, but if you just produced what she was typing, they probably wouldn't be able to completely read it. So you couldn't just say, here's all of the, Todd McNair, on the witness stand. You would have to have her in there and to read it to him. But the second, I say in there, I think what we understood was that eventually if that happened, it would be read in full court with the jury back in the jury box. So, and then they're saying, well, that's an awful lot of, of a transcript. And you really need to narrow it down. So that's the last we heard was you need to narrow it down. And then one of the court reporters said, we have no requests for rereading the transcript. So that kind of went away.
Yeah. So then the next question/request that we heard from the jury was that they wanted a poster board. It's a poster board of paper. It's kind of like I don't know how to describe it, but it's a poster board of paper that you can write on. And they requested that. So it got us thinking, speculating, of course, are they writing numbers down? What are they doing with this paper? But then nothing really came of that we know of. And then the next thing we heard, right around 2:30 in the day, was okay. Maybe they're taking their break, but no, we thought they were taking their break, but no, it was a question for Judge Schaller, and that's when they asked, what do we do if we're in a deadlock? So it was an interesting development of the day of where we were trying to guess where they were going, and it wasn't where we thought.
It wasn't where Judge Schaller thought they were going. I don't think it was where either set of attorneys thought it was going. So that was a little bit of a shock for all parties involved. And, so they had some discussion as to where do we go from here. Judge Schaller said fairly quickly, if it stays unresolved, if it stays deadlocked, 8-4, a retrial is what they do. And he said, when you think of all the time and effort and manpower and resources and all of that's gone into this trial, we need to probably make a further effort to get this resolved. And he proposed 3 different ways of doing that, and he eventually settled on 2 of them. One was to bring the jury in, see if they've got any questions, anything they can be resolved in court, and get them going. Second one was, let them go home, think about it overnight, come back tomorrow morning, and try to resolve it. And the third one was just say, go back into the room and keep deliberating. He didn't think that was a good idea, so he settled for 1 and 2. And on the first one, the question, when the jury asked about the one question that they thought they could have answered was, originally there were 3 causes of action: defamation, breach of contract, and negligence.
Yep.
And 2 of those have been dropped. And the question was, how did that happen, or what's going on there, or whatever? And Judge Schaller said he's not sure he can go into that without, affecting the way that, the outcome of the trial, and would have to kind of depend on the 2 attorneys to decide how would you answer that, or do you answer that? And I don't think we have an answer to that. And I do think they decided to come back from the attorney's point of view at 8:45 to maybe say, here's our idea, and I don't think we have any idea how that's going to go.
Yeah. Bruce Roulette was the one who suggested to talk with the team overnight to try and figure out a strategy how to answer that question for the jury. As far as dropping those 2 claims or charges against the NCAA, do you think that kind of backfired? It seemed like that was something that Todd McNair's lawyers did to kind of simplify the case, but it seems like it didn't simplify, or at least is causing some questions in the jury's mind.
Yeah, I really don't know where that question came from. So it's so hard to guess. And why were they thinking about something, that wasn't there? I mean, if it's me, I'm thinking, hey, great, we only have to decide on 1. Why would that be? Was that sort of a distraction? Did that get somebody off the path of figuring out this case? I don't know. That was kind of a shock that would become kind of an issue if they say, we're only working on defamation and focus on defamation. And the question is, but what happened to those other 2? Well, they're not here anymore. But, that's why they say with the jury trial, you really never know.
You really don't know. And to be clear, 8-4, we don't know which way that leans. That could be for the NCAA, that could be for Todd McNair. So it's really one person holding up where this goes forward.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't get the sense that anybody has a real sense of where this is going. I mean, you could kind of be rooting for one side or the other, but if you asked me, if you made me bet on it, I would probably bet that it's 8-4 for Todd. But
really don't know.
I have absolutely no proof of that. No reason to be able to tell you why I believe that. I do think it's interesting when it's 9-3 is the deciding vote in this case. Whoever, you've got 4 people who, in effect, each one of them is the deciding vote. One of them flips, and it goes 9-3. So you've got 4 people, thinking about where their vote is and where do they want to come down, and is that enough that they come in tomorrow and say, I want to go in this direction, or somebody has an answer for them or whatever. I don't know how that works, but the classic movie scenario where it's an 11-1 holdout, one holdout against all the rest of the jury, but here you've got 4 people that are in that role, and I don't know how that plays out.
Yeah, but Judge Schaller seemed intent on making the jury give a better effort, he said, and coming to a conclusion. He said he wanted to give it their best effort. So there was also talk that there might be, if there's a problem with a juror, they could replace a juror with an alternate. Do you see that happening at all?
Well, one of the jurors was MIA for...
Alternate.
Was he an alternate?
Yeah.
That was an alternate. Okay, I couldn't tell which number that was. And so I guess they really weren't as worried about him. I think if it came down to, replacing somebody or having a mistrial or whatever, they would replace somebody, would be your guess.
Yeah.
I don't know legally how that works out, but it's interesting. The 3 alternates that are left now do not go in the jury room. They're sequestered away from the 12 who are deliberating. So I don't know if that happens in the middle of deliberations. How do you bring an alternate up to speed? Again, these are questions for people who've gone to law school and not us.
Yep. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for day 20. Definitely a dramatic turn of events. For Dan Weber, I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out uscfootball.com.